Here.
All right. Got it. Now I need to hit record.
Just pay attention to those comments.
I know. Well, I mean, if anybody shows up, we just never know if anybody's going to show up.
Well, they're showing up.
Oh,
How
are
do
they?
I get that on that YouTube channel?
It's Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker is our YouTube channel. So they just if they put in Law Offices of Quibble and hit search, they'll find our channel, as long as they spell quibble correctly. All right, the recording is going on.
How's my lighting, Matt? I need, is this up? Is it okay?
Unfortunately, you're still ugly.
Oh, well, I didn't ask about that. I was asking about my light.
Oh, okay. The lighting.
You look a little jaundiced.
I think because it's darker around you, it makes your face stick out a little more. So I think that works out pretty well, honestly.
Oh, living in darkness.
Well, did everybody hit your prompts so that the recording is going and you're all good?
I did. I've submitted to the state.
To the state. Yes, this is a government operation that we've got going on here. All right, well, let me, what was that, Greg?
I have submitted to your authority. Record me.
I think we submit to each other's authority. All right, so let's get the show on the road. Welcome to another episode of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker, running live on TikTok and YouTube, although TikTok just sees the side of my face and hears only me and no one else, so it's really a very one-sided thing that happens on TikTok. So just go to our YouTube channel at Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker, and you can watch the entire interview. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Ryan Cassata, who is a musician based out of, I believe you're in New York right now?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Are you in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
You're originally from New York.
Yep.
And he will be discussing his new album, which just came out a couple of months ago, just released a brand new track last night, which is actually quite catchy. So you should all check that out. It's called Closer. You can find that on his website, which is ryancassata.com. And later on, he may or may not be helping us out with our client. Our client today is Rock and Roll Coochie Who, which is essentially going to be a discussion about music and fashion. Don't ask me where that title came from, other than just basic insanity. That being said, I want to welcome also Brendan and Greg, who are also part of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker, who essentially keep me in check. So today we have a sponsor for the show that once again will not pay any of our bills, and I think Greg is the one who found this sponsor. Greg, if you don't mind.
Well,
letting
this
us know about it.
sponsor just called up with the information, so it might be a little sketchy.
Oh, well.
So I'm going to cover my face so you can pretend it's someone else.
As we look at your chicken scratch on the screen.
Are you always the last one of your friends to be in the know, hip to the jive, on the tip, down by law, in on the kill taker? Are you tired of being Mr. Johnny Come Lately, one step behind everyone else, with their first-hand experiences and anecdotal superiority? Well, quit your sniffling and sign up for our Novel Virus of the Month Club. Each month, we'll send you a new novel virus, freshly hatched from one of the four corners of the world. Imagine the attention you will receive as a trailblazing patient zero with news channels putting your face in the national spotlight. You'll bask in the glow of your envious friends as you regale them with tales of your strange new symptoms and your mass Sunday brunches with Dr. Anthony Fauci. Operators are standing by, so try the Novel Virus of the Month Club. It's infectious. Novel viruses contain lizard people-derived tracking nanobots. Amounts may vary.
Nice.
There you go.
Did you say it's Virus of the Month Club?
Yeah, I love it. I
was
love the
shocked.
nanobots.
It's like
I'm
a
glad,
novel book club.
yeah, I'm
Oh.
glad they gave the disclaimer about the nanobots and all that at the end. That's responsible.
It is. They should always have a disclaimer.
Because you might not get as much as you want in some of the viruses. Some of the viruses will have less, some will have more. You might be disappointed with the amount of nanobots you get in each one, but there will be some.
Is there any way to
You
go
get a healthy portion.
What was that, Brendan?
I was going to say like an extra strength nanobot subscription, like for an extra $10 a month.
You could probably do, we'll work on that.
Do
Okay.
any of them communicate with either Bill Gates or Elon Musk?
They all do, of course. That's a
They-
given.
They all do. Are the
Yeah.
Rockefellers involved? I think is the real question.
The Rothschilds.
Uh,
The Queen. Anyway, let's move on. Our guest probably is going, what the hell are they talking about? Ryan, right now, I don't know if you know you're unmuted now, so that's good. Ryan, what did it actually take to finally get your album in full swing over the last few months?
Yeah, to get it released. Usually the writing process is always very quick for me. It comes very naturally. And then I recorded the album. I started recording it during the lockdown, like the initial shelter in place in 2020. And I've recorded like for a really long time because I was new at recording myself and I couldn't go to the studio. So I had to learn a lot of things. So the recording process took a really long time. And then I went into the studio last year to mix and master it. And then you kind of got to wait like 6 months after you finish it to be able to promote it. So once it was like fully done, I was like, all right, October, let's go. And got it out in a DIY fashion. And it did chart on the iTunes album charts for the alternative music. So that was pretty cool for me.
Who would you
Nice.
say that your style most emulates? Because I noticed you have kind of like trip hop qualities to your music, but at the same time, this most recent song you put out definitely has a stronger alternative.
Matt doesn't even know what trip hop means, by the way.
It's whenever you
just
hop
read
and
that.
you fall down, Greg. That's
He
I know
read
what
that in
trip
an
hop means.
article.
Are you're assuming that I know how to read? Is what you're saying?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know who my style sounds like. I listen to so many different genres of music that I think they all sort of just get fused together, and they all just kind of like combine into each other. So I don't, yeah, if I had to pick like one artist, I honestly really couldn't because I changed genres so much.
Would you have to cut high school to find time to record this album?
Did I skip
Ryan
high
is
school?
28 years old, Greg.
Yeah.
I know, right? I was just saying, you look so young. You look
But I
like
did skip class sometimes to write songs when I was in high school. But now I'm in graduate school now.
Oh, you going
I
for
was
the
just ribbing
master's
you.
or a
You
doctorate?
look very young.
What's up?
You going for a master's or a doctorate?
Master's right now.
What are you studying?
I'm studying theology and social transformation.
Interesting. You
Yeah.
thinking that that's going to like translate into your music, or are you kind of like switch careers, or what's your plan there?
Oh, it's definitely already helping my lyrics and my writing style because I'm like learning so much more. My brain is definitely expanding. But I don't know. I am an activist. I've been doing activism work since I was 13 pretty seriously. So I'm going to continue doing that and use this for that too.
Well, I saw you were like on Larry King and on the Tyra Banks show before when you were younger.
Yeah.
Are you like on a current news circuit right now, or just planning to
No.
go into that soon?
It's not really, I kind of like I don't do much like TV stuff. It's mostly more of like community building things. So a lot of things that happen like outside of the media.
Uh-huh. Like
Yeah.
what kind of a community are we talking about? Just like the local neighborhood, or are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I like serve mostly for the LGBTQ community and the trans community, and I've been doing that since I was like 13. So a lot of the work I do is like going into high schools and colleges and speaking about my own experience in hopes to like just bring some awareness to the transgender community and queer community, and also to like just open up some hearts and minds, you know?
Well, that'll be challenging here since Greg and I both have very small, cold hearts and smaller minds. Brendan,
But
we're
we
still
live in Portland, though, where nobody has to
questioning
make us aware about the trans community.
they don't have to make us aware.
No, I know them.
All of
know,
them?
do you know all
of them?
Greg?
Portland,
Oh.
Oregon, or?
Yeah.
Portland, Oregon, yeah.
I know all of Portland.
Greg is apparently the entire trans community visits Greg's apartment on a daily basis, according to Greg.
Did you already know you were trans when you were 13? Is that when you got into why you got into the activism?
Yeah.
Well, that was a good open-ended question there, Greg. You were able to elicit a lot of information with your yes or
Well,
no question.
Yeah. Were your parents supportive?
No.
No.
All right, you're 2 for 2, bro. So, like you said, you did a lot of like big media back then. How did that transpire, especially with your parents being kind of unsupportive? Did you have a mentor or a friend, or how did you go from my parents don't like what I'm doing, this is how I feel, and now I'm on Larry King or wherever you were?
Yeah. Well, I was like getting bullied a lot in my middle school, which led me to finding the LGBT center that happened to be in my hometown. It was like the only one on Long Island at the time. So I was pretty lucky for that. So I joined this team at the LGBT center called the Safe Schools team. And they basically like trained us on public speaking, and we would go into schools and educate and answer questions and do that sort of thing. And then eventually by the time I was like 16, I was getting called to do that on my own, actually when I was 15. So I went on the Larry King live show when I was 15. And that was the turning point for my mom to start being supportive.
Really? Because you were on Larry King, or because she saw that this wasn't some phase, or, you were acting out or doing, whatever moms think,
Yeah, she actually went on the Larry King show with me and wasn't very supportive yet. And then I think when she saw it air, because it actually wasn't live, even though it's called live, it wasn't live.
Larry King was barely alive at that time. So.
Yeah. So when she saw herself on TV, I think she realized like, oh, I should be supportive.
Wow.
What did Larry King smell like?
Well, actually, I was through a satellite, and it was it was when Michael Jackson died. So Larry King was like not available, and Dr. Drew interviewed me.
Oh, Dr. Drew from K-Rock, by at least back in the day, and before he had his own show. Wow, that's cool.
I don't think it was K-Rock back when Ryan was interviewed. It would be more like during the heyday of Dr. Drew's Love Line or something. Was that on K-Rock? I got it.
Was that yeah, it started on K-Rock. I mean, that was a long time ago, but anyway, whatever. Well, that's it. That's good that your mom kind of made that. What about your dad? Was your dad part of this scene, or had they divorced previously, or did dad ever kind of?
Yeah, my parents were divorced when I was like 5, but
okay, so it was just mom.
Yeah, it took my dad like another 3 years.
Right.
After that point, so yeah, now my whole family's supportive, so I'm lucky for that.
That's great. That's fantastic.
What was like the biggest objection from your family in terms of whenever you're coming out and talking about being trans? What was something that would cause them to not be supportive?
I think honestly what made my family the most worried was how that was going to change my life, and that like just knowing that I would not be as safe in the world because I came out. So I think that was what my parents were like most worried about, was my safety.
Yeah, that is one of the bigger problems with parents. I mean, to be honest with you, my youngest is trans and came out actually to me, I guess, back about 6 or 7 years ago. And it was a bit of a struggle for me at first, because I'm like, okay, this wasn't anything I was expecting. I didn't know that. I was like all prepared for any of my kids to be gay or something. And I'm like, the trans was still kind of a new concept, at least for me to wrap my head around. I was like, I always thought I had relatively socially liberal views about such things. And I realized that I had some preconceived notions about what trans was. I mean, having actually made fun of trans people in the past myself. And so I was like, well, okay, if you're still feeling this way by the time you're 18, I'll get on board. And so along the way, I was just kind of going, well, is this a phase type of thing? And so eventually I realized, well, it wasn't, because I realized also that there's no way for me to ever truly be able to understand what somebody is going through who's experiencing being trans. And so I was wondering for yourself, like, what was the turning point where you said to yourself, I am a boy? What made you finally like take that? What, because with my kid it just felt more comfortable saying that to himself, you know.
Mm.
So I was wondering if it's something similar with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was something I just like always knew. And then when I met another trans person, I realized that I could transition, that was an option. Because back then it really wasn't in the media or anything. So it was really hard to find resources or even, it was hard to figure yourself out when you're not being represented on the media, on TV. So it was
Right.
hard to um place it until I met someone else and I was like, oh, this is actually like a real thing.
So for
Right.
you, it became real in that sense. In other words, you were having those thoughts, but you didn't really know there was such a thing. In other words,
Yeah, like
to
I
be
didn't know
able
there
to.
was a word. I didn't know any of that.
Oh, that's fascinating. So,
Hmm.
so at the time then, and pardon me for getting kind of personal on this. So at the time, what were the thoughts that you were having? What was the thing that you were thinking that wasn't able to be actually defined for you?
I think I always just felt like my brothers. And then when I started to go through puberty and realize like, oh, things were different between us, that's kind of like how I realized. Because I always like dressed the same and we all played with the same toys. So, things weren't really very gendered in my house growing up.
Hmm. So in other words,
Did
everybody
your
there
mom and
played
dad
with
buy you
dolls.
like Barbie dolls? Would they buy you like girly toys and be like, and you were just like, no, I don't care.
Yeah, like me and my brothers would all play with Barbies. We would all play with Matchbox cars. We would all play Connects. We'd all play Legos. We'd all play baseball on the front lawn. Like there was nothing, my parents weren't ever like, oh, that's for girls, that's for boys. We just did whatever we wanted, like
Mhm.
as far as toys goes.
And you should know that Greg's nickname is Girly Toy. So
Well,
I
that's
once
his
made
that's his stage name. Let's not get into all that.
I
But
played with Barbies a little when I was a youngster in
and then you
puberty,
got more
but I
into it in
just
the last couple of years.
no, I made Barbie and GI Joe like make out and do stuff, and it was
Yeah.
strangely it was very thrilling. It was I didn't know why I was confused.
You did Barbie and GI Joe, not Ken.
No, Ken, fuck Ken,
oh my
GI
god.
Joe.
So
Okay.
so in
Way
terms
to
of
go.
your music now, did you have a similar realization about you being a musician at an early age, or did that come a lot later?
No, I started playing guitar when I was 6. So I always had like I've always been into music. I've always wanted to be a musician, play music. And when I was 6, I started playing guitar. So I mean, my entire life that I can remember, I've been playing music.
Wow.
What kind of music? What kind of music did you first kind of gravitate to?
Oh,
Polka.
all the music that I listened to is classic rock in the beginning mostly because of how like my parents. So that's what I was listening to. And I wanted to play like classic rock songs on the guitar. And I did. And then I started writing songs when I was 12 years old. And that was just something that came very naturally to me. I didn't think it was like different or anything. And I thought like everyone probably wrote songs like in their free time in their bedroom and just like didn't tell anyone about it. And then I started to realize like in my later teenage years that was like a special gift really. And I mean, I can't explain like how to write a song and I don't know why I can or whatever. It's just like something you have or you don't have.
Do you find that you write lyrics and songs first and then put the music to them, or does it more like you kind of get a tune in your head and then you kind of write lyrics to that tune?
Usually it happens like at the same time for me. So I'll just like start playing guitar and I'll start having a melody, or sometimes I'll make a beat first and then go from there. So it depends. Yeah, it really just depends.
Gotcha.
By the way, everybody, we do have a number of people watching on TikTok right now, but they haven't translated over to the YouTube channel. So if you guys want to look on TikTok, you can see the people who are not able to hear you. Anyway,
They really
what-
love listening to Matt's monologue.
I know,
That's
especially when I'm
That-
silent.
That schizophrenic monologue.
And they're
He's
just like
talking to-
staring at my gigantic nose from my phone as we have it going on TikTok. When did you decide that activism should be part of what you do? So you were a musician first or activist first? Well, I guess you're a musician first, obviously, but I mean in terms of in a more broad capacity, what actually drove you into the activist role? Was it because of the issues you're having with your parents? But I'm just curious how you wound up on Larry King Live and on Tyra Banks. What got you to that stage?
Yeah. Well, I joined that Safe Schools team when I was 13 because of the bullying that I was going through. And I quickly realized that if I wanted to change minds, that I would need to educate people. And I realized like fighting back for me, like I don't believe in violence. I'm a very nonviolent person, and I would say that's part of my theology. And I realized that really young, that if I was going to change people's minds and open their hearts and minds, it had to be through education. So I would choose not to fight back to the bullies and instead educate people in my school. And then that started to go into other schools. And I was speaking with the Safe Schools team, and I was naturally pretty good at telling my story from a young age, from when I was a teenager. And like I gave my first keynote speech when I was 13. And then at 15 is when I got called to be on Larry King. They called the LGBT Center looking for someone to be on, and that led to Tyra Banks as well. So
did the bullying start like in elementary school? Was it that early?
yeah, I mean, I've been bullied my entire life. So
Well,
it got worse in middle school. I mean, middle school kids are kind of mean.
Yeah.
So
middle school kids are the worst.
yeah.
So was the bullying, like at that point, were they just bullying you because kids are assholes and you were just a little different, or were they bullying you specifically about kind of, you know, gender and kind of how you felt? I mean, did it start as one and then sort of kind of become the other, or were they just picking on you because middle school kids just pick on kids? They seem to have this radar of kids that think differently and they just zoom in on them. I mean, how did it start?
Yeah, I mean, the bullying was always, there's all like different things that I was bullied for, like the type of music I liked and what baseball team I liked, like everything I was bullied for. But really the thing that I was consistently bullied for was that I was more masculine than the girls at my school. And I was just bullied for that since like elementary school.
So the girls would bully you and the boys?
Yeah. Mostly girls though. And then in like, when I came out as trans, it was mostly like teachers bullying me.
Interesting. How did the teachers bully you?
Just by like not giving me access to things that other students had, like the bathroom and things like that.
They wouldn't let you go to the bathroom? Would you have to pee in a corner or something?
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to use the school bathroom, and I had to stand in my school hallways with a petition. So that was basically my entire high school experience, was like petitioning against my school for basic human rights.
So I'm sorry to ask this question. So if you had to go to the bathroom, where did you go? Did you just like pee in a cup in the classroom?
No,
or
so
something, or?
Luckily there's our school social worker was really good, and she would basically watch the hallway for me while I used the staff bathroom at the school, which was like gender neutral. So she would just like make sure no one else went in there, and so that we wouldn't like get in trouble. But yeah, she would I wasn't allowed to use the bathroom, wasn't allowed to change for gym. It was just all these things like that I wasn't allowed to do.
Wow. Yeah, I never experienced that type of thing, obviously, in school, because we were back in a time period when that wasn't really known about. I mean, there were in the news occasional reports of people having trans operations, but it was never as prevalent. And I think it probably came really into the forefront of news and society when Bruce Jenner transitioned to Caitlyn. I think that's when it kind of made it. And I think when Chaz Bono transition. I think it was before then. And I think it
Hmm.
became even more accepted once the Wachowski brothers from the Matrix movies became the Wachowski sisters. So, are you finding that there's still a lot of bullying going on towards you, or do you feel that's changed a bit? Have you detected anything in terms of how people treat you?
Um, I mean, online there's still bullying, and they'll probably always be. But in my school, there's like no bullying at all. In my school, I'm in graduate school, so if like you're pulling that there, it's like, how would you even be in graduate school? But like, yeah, it's I think the world is changing for the better. We still have a very long way to go. There's still a incredible amount of violence towards the trans community, especially towards trans women of color. So there's a very long way that we need to go to get equality and to just live in this world and be safe.
What would you see as being the optimum state of mind for individuals to address anybody with these issues?
Um, like people that are being bullied, or what do you mean?
The bullies. What would be the way have you actually changed any bullies' minds? Have you done that?
Yeah, I have. And I think a lot of that goes like to opening up to them and showing that like, hey, even though we're different, I'm human too. And I have feelings too. And really trying to like explain, but also with respect.
Are you getting more inadvertent bullying? In other words, people don't realize that they're actually bullying you, or more deliberate bullying these days?
On the internet, it's very deliberate.
Yeah, well, they bully
Yeah.
everybody on the internet.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get bullied on the internet. I mean, yeah. Well, it's interesting. So, how does this translate back to your music? Are your songs kind of an expression of some of this? Issues of humanity and being a part of a bigger picture and not defining ourselves in various ways, or are you writing kind of some other kind of song, just your traditional sort of rock music songs? How does your experience translate into what you're doing musically?
Yeah, some of my songs are about being trans, but the majority aren't. I mean, I sing about oppression a lot because I am an oppressed person in this country. But mostly what I sing about is like love songs, and um, that's, like every songwriter likes to sing about love or heartbreak, and that happens to be me too. And I enjoy writing about that, and that's what comes naturally to me. Like, and I don't really decide what I write about or what I don't write about. Like songwriting just feels like this force that comes into me. So like I don't decide like, hey, tonight I'm gonna write a song about being trans. Like that has never been a thought in my mind.
Right. Or I'm going to write a song about breaking up, or I'm going to write it. It's just sort of kind of comes from somewhere and into you kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
I'm curious as to why it is you decided to go into theology for your master's as opposed to more a music-oriented type of degree. What is the thought process behind that particular avenue?
Yeah. I feel pretty like stable with my career, and I love what I do. I think my music has always been a way to help other people as well. Like I'd rather write like a song and be able to like connect with like my fans and be able to help them than have like, I don't know, do something where in the music industry where I'm not helping as many people. Like I like to have that personal aspect of everything. And I like to like, go and play pride festivals and go speak at schools and do these sort of things. I don't know, like music degree is like, it's cool. And like, you could learn stuff like to be an audio engineer and do all that sort of thing. Like if that's what you want to do, or be like a music lawyer. But I mean, I definitely don't believe in like school for songwriting. Like I said, I think it's something that you either have or you don't have. And obviously you get better at it if you practice and maybe read a lot of books or something. But I don't think that you can really go to school for that. But my activism has always been like really close to my heart, and that's tied in with my music. And I'm also I would consider myself to be a very spiritual person. And so combining like my spirituality with my activism work has, I would say it's helped me to be a better activist and to just have the level of self-care that I need to be able to continue being an activist long term, because it is very taxing on your mental health and it's exhausting. And so yeah, studying theology, like in school, we're learning a lot about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the nonviolent movement and ways to make social change that are effective, but also nonviolent.
Well, it's a noble thing to do. So when you're studying theology, you said you're dealing with Dr. Martin Luther King and nonviolent methods. I'm assuming you'd probably be studying about Gandhi and other people who paved the way for those particular
Yeah.
ideologies. Now, when you say theology, though, was there a particular religion that caused you to be interested in studying theology, or is it more all-encompassing for like many different religions that you have the most interest in? And is this to like closer define the particular spiritual path that you're on?
Yeah, I definitely want to try to remain as universal as possible and keep trying to strive towards being more universal about different types of religions. I grew up like in the Catholic Church, and I don't associate with that, but I go to a Christian church that's very LGBTQ affirming, so I associate mostly with that.
What's the denomination of that church?
Oh, that's a United Church of Christ. So it's not really, it's kind of non-denominational. So it's very open-ended, and yeah, I like that type of thing the best.
Yeah, we have a big one. I'm in Florida. We have a big United Church of Christ in St. Petersburg. I built their website. I'm not a member of that church, but they've got a lot of. I went down there. They were doing a drum circle, and I'm like, if I was going to go to a Christian church, this would probably be one I might consider.
Because they have a drum circle?
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Are you one of the guys who goes out in the woods, Brendan, and plays drums with naked men?
I might. I don't know.
He's not Iron John.
Do you have a problem with that, Mr. Portland? No. I'm the one in Florida.
I'm just wondering if you have to like dodge the gators while you're out there.
Oh, you definitely don't want to go near the water if you're naked drum circling. No, it's not part of the scene.
So Ryan, do you perform music at your church? Is there like a rock band, a Christian rock band?
We don't have a band yet, but hopefully soon they will.
Oh, it'd be like a worship team. So there's no worship team at your church?
Oh yeah, they just have like piano right now, but they're yeah. I mean, with COVID right now, everything's pretty small.
Understandably.
I'm very familiar with Christian rock bands because I would always go to churches to get the free food when I was
oh my God.
Even poorer than I am now.
I thought you just went through the dumpsters of the churches, Greg.
I did that too. I went through dumpsters, but every now and then the churches would have like free food and you'd have to sit through the mass. And it would always be like a cool church like that, like not Lutheran or something. It was like always some like a name I never heard of a denomination, some weird little church. And then the pastor would be cool and they give out free food, but you'd have to sit through the mass. And sometimes it was fun. They'd have a pretty good rock band.
What kind of food did you get? Like meatballs and macaroni and cheese? What kind of
food whatever, like sterno food.
They give you jars of sterno to
No, sterno heated, would be like potluck style. It was nice.
Well, are you sure you're not confusing a church with a homeless shelter?
They were like that. I mean, there's a lot of homeless people were there. I wasn't homeless, but I was pretty broke. So I'd want a hot meal.
So you were taking food out of the mouths of actual homeless people, is what you're saying?
No, it wasn't for homeless people. It was the pastors would say. I'd even sometimes bring food and join the potluck. I'd be like, I got some bananas, or whatever.
All right. Well, let's talk of food. This is a perfect time to go into our food segment. So I'm going to share the screen here for everyone, if I can get things to work, because sometimes I can't figure things out, and we'll get Waspy Soda Pop rolling here.
Food is for eating. Food is for eating. Food is for eating with Waspy Soda Pop.
Hey there, everybody. This is Waspy Soda Pop. I've got a very simple, very easy recipe for you today. This is just a standard BLT sandwich. Here are your ingredients. I'll get right into it. You want to get 4 slices of bacon, whatever kind you like. You could get pork bacon, beef bacon, goat bacon, hippopotamus bacon. Again, whatever kind you like. I hear hippo is quite good. Then you get 2 leaves of lettuce. I like napped cabbage, but you can use something lettucey that you prefer, not necessarily anything green because that could be jello, so stay with the lettuce. Then you want to get 2 slices of sourdough bread. Again, that is a personal preference, but you want to toast that. That's the best thing to do. 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise. You can get that pretty much anywhere. You're also going to need 1 pair of work gloves, 1 pair of safety goggles, a staple gun, 1 lasso, and 1 empty mason jar with a lid. You want to get 2 6x6-inch pieces of plywood. They'll need to be secured to your countertop, and then you're going to have to find 1 very small tornado for your final piece of your BLT sandwiches. Here's what you do next. You want to cook the bacon in a large, deep skillet over medium-high heat until evenly browned. It's about 10 minutes. However long it takes you, like how crispy you want the bacon. You drain the bacon slices on a paper towel-lined plate, or just put it on paper towel, put it on your head, whatever you want. Then you arrange the cooked bacon and the lettuce on 1 slice of the bread, which should be placed on 1 of your pieces of plywood. Then with your staple gun, carefully staple the 4 corners of the bread and the lettuce and the bacon to the bread. Okay, then you're going to spread the other side of the remaining bread slice with the mayonnaise. Just put that aside for the time being. I want you to then watch the weather reports. Look for forming tornadoes. Dust devils can work in a pinch if need be, depending on which part of the country you're in. You go to the location where the forming tornado is, lasso one of those baby tornadoes, and place it in the jar. You got to remember to bring that jar with you. Of course, put the lid on after you get it in the jar. You return to your favorite sandwich space. Cautiously open the jar. Shove that baby tornado onto the bacon and lettuce slices. With your other hand, grab the mayo bread slice. Quickly remove the jar while shoving the bread on top of your baby tornado. There is your bacon, lettuce, and tornado sandwich. Hold the bread down. Rip the bottom slice from the plywood. Take a big bite. You can't get better than that. This is Waspy Soda Pop, and food is for eating.
Food.
Oh. There we go.
That was fucking insane. Okay, now it's just getting more nuts.
I said he was a little insane today. That was what
Like
I was
Salvador
dealing with.
Dali's cookbook.
I don't even know the first beginning to how you would actually lasso a tornado. But hey, it's a BLT.
And what does it
Bacon,
taste
lettuce.
like? It tastes good? The tornado?
It tastes like trailer parks is what it tastes like. Right? Anyway, all right. Well, we're at the halfway mark, definitely on the show, and moving into our client. Ryan, you're certainly welcome to stick around. Our client for today is Rock and Roll Coochie Who, which is essentially just talking about how fashion works into with music and how music changes fashion, how fashion changes music, that kind of thing. So, Greg, I don't know if you have a lot of thoughts about this. But would you say that fashion goes back to like the beginning of the origination of music, or what would you say?
I guess there's always been fashion. People always dressed to the occasion, and there's always been music. But I don't know if they necessarily have such a pull on each other. Like music is people like music that they like, and then sometimes there's a fashion associated with like new wave music. People would wear those weird little sunglasses and checkered shirts, but they still would have liked the music anyway. It's not
Weird
like
little sunglasses and checkered shirts.
Remember those wraparound sunglasses? The Una glass.
Like Devo. I think what Greg is trying to say.
Hold on a second. Ryan was just sending a message saying he was planning to go to YouTube. Ryan, before you go, sorry to interrupt you, Brendan. Ryan, if you could give your website information and where people can find you, that would be great. I'm very sorry that I didn't give you that opportunity.
Oh, sure. Thank you. My name is Ryan Cassata. My website is ryancassata.com. So you can find me on social media under my name as well on all of them. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on and for listening.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know how to spell Cassata, it's Cassata. I think I got that right. And there's also a whole Wikipedia article about Ryan as well, if you want to dig a little more into him. Again, he just had an album, just a song released last night, and his album came out about 4 or 5 months ago. It's there's a lot of really good music on there, so check it out, everybody. Thank you once again, Ryan, for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Ryan.
yeah, I
Thanks
don't
for
know if you
coming
saw,
on.
there was a comment on YouTube for you where someone said that you helped them come out. So obviously your activism is working well.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sure thing.
All right, back to music and fashion. And Ryan has actually exemplified a certain style of fashion too with his music. So it looks like he wears rather casual stuff, and is fully tattooed as well on some of the videos that he has. So, I think tattoos, I don't know if they're more of a recent thing with musicians, or if that has been around for a while. I think it's more recent, isn't it?
I think musicians have always been tattooed.
Yeah, I think it was more sailors who were tattooed really first, unless they were like musical sailors.
I think tattoos, just generally speaking, have become much more fashionable. I mean, musician or not, there's tons and tons of people who are way tatted up, way more than there was, back in the 80s. Like if you had a tattoo.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Brendan.
Well, you were both musicians, and neither of you got tattoos until like later in life, right?
I was too broke. I couldn't afford a tattoo.
I was too indecisive. I couldn't pick anything that I thought I could live with for the rest of my life.
But I think rock and roll musicians are like sailors, and the only people who had tattoos before when we were kids is they didn't have to get a job. Tattoos were seen as like unseemly and like kind of like, oh, you got a tattoo, you're like a convict or some seedy guy. So rock and roll musicians have to give a shit about that. They had no real job. They don't have real jobs, rock and roll guys.
When we were going to do this topic, one of the first visuals I had in my mind was of Mozart in his ruffled clothing of the time period. And I'm wondering if even back then, the quote unquote rock stars of the time, who would be the classical musicians who were like being the forefront of the revolution in the arts.
So you think he was more of a dandy than the average person? I think he was just wearing the clothes of the day. Isn't that what upper class people would wear back then?
I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was more of a dandy or if he was like wearing the clothes of the time, or if he did something. Maybe it was his actions that were more different. Maybe the actions started to translate into fashion later on. I mean, fashion has gone through various different changes, obviously, throughout time. And you never know why something suddenly becomes fashionable. Like, when did top hats become popular, and why?
Yeah, that's a different thing. I think that like the worlds of fashion and music started to kind of come together maybe in the late 50s and obviously in the 60s, and then they've never separated from that time. I mean, Frank Sinatra was the rock star of his time, but he dressed like an average dandy, well-dressed guy did back then. It wasn't a fashion necessarily, but I think it's a commercial thing, and that you can sell as the marketing guy, you can sell not only the music, but you can sell also the clothes. You can sell, as an example, when I wore, I think we talked about this when we were talking about this episode, when I wore jeans that had holes in the knees, it was because I was skateboarding and crashing and tearing up my pants. Now you buy pants with pre-made holes because you want to be a part of the skater punk rock music fashion, and so it's a fashion statement. When back then it was just because that's just the way it was.
Well, Samantha Fox started that.
Actually, no, that's not true, Greg, because I was watching a music video last night, and I think it was Robert Plant back in the day, back in the early 70s, had entirely ripped up jeans and holes.
Because he was skating all the time.
Was he skating to the Immigrant Song? Is that, and then he ripped up?
I don't know if he was a skater, but he probably had holes in his pants for other reasons. I don't think it was, he went out and was like, took a razor blade and was like, yeah, I need a hole in this knee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think
All I
that
know
was
is that
just
you shouldn't be doing that arm gesture on Zoom, Brendan, because that'll get your
Yeah.
wife hitting you in the back of the head again. So
I think Robert Plant was too busy getting blowjobs to buy new clothing. He had the money, but he was doing coke and getting blowjobs every minute of the day. So
well, I was just thinking about, ethnic musicians. They would wear costumes. For example, like the
Mariachi.
Oompa bands from Germany, where they wear their lederhosen, and polka bands, like the Schmeggy brothers in the SCTV, where they
and
had like the
mariachi bands.
right mariachi bands with the sombreros and the giant guitars. So there's always like maybe it's part of the entire show. Part of show business is like there has to be some kind of attire that goes with this style of music. So you brought up Sinatra. Now Sinatra is wearing essentially suits and ties when he was performing, but I
Mhm.
think that was part of the aesthetic of that
Sure.
particular genre of music. Now,
Well,
at the
everyone wore suits
time,
and ties back then.
who were the contemporaries in popular music of Sinatra, or less popular music, would be like the beatnik types, right? Or well, I guess Elvis came a bit later than Sinatra, probably about 10 years later than Sinatra.
Yeah.
So he brought in like the leather. Well, he brought in the leather later.
Yeah, that
Like-
was like, now we're getting into like the 70s. Like when he first
Well,
started.
he was the leather in the early 60s was Elvis Presley, right?
Late
And-
50s, he was
I
wearing
don't know.
leather.
Tell me more about your study of Elvis and his leather, Matt.
Well, he had a couple of different like phases, right? Well, when he came back from being in the military
Yeah.
and he did his return concert, that's where he wore like the full leather getup and was like showed like a different style than what he had before, which is more similar to say like what Buddy Holly was wearing in the 50s.
No, he was going back to his old style when he did that 68 comeback show. That was way after he got out of the military. He was like saying, look, I'm still a rock and roller. I used to wear leather jacket. Like he used to wear leather jackets in the late 50s.
So are we talking leather jacket, leather pants? What?
Both.
Not leather pants. Do you have leather pants?
Yeah,
I
I think he
don't
had leather
remember leather
jacket and
pants.
leather pants on that.
I
that
thought Jim
particular
Morrison-
concert.
I thought Jim Morrison invented the leather pant.
Well, Jim Morrison wore the leather pants, but he didn't wear the leather jacket.
No, because he didn't have to. I'm saying
wore
Elvis
nothing.
wore the leather jacket, but that was part of that, 50s bad boy culture with the leather jacket and the greased back hair.
Yeah.
I mean, that was different.
The James
That was
Dean thing.
the James Dean thing. That was definitely different from what Sinatra was doing. But again, I think Sinatra was, playing to a different audience. My only point was Sinatra, I don't think was being fashionable. He was just being an old white guy.
Those were his street clothes. That's what people
Yeah,
wore
that-
back then.
He was wearing that whether he was on stage or getting a bagel. That's just what he wore.
Yeah.
Whereas
Do
I
you think
think,
Sammy Davis Jr. took him to the bagel shop?
wow, that was weirdly racist. But okay.
Well, no, it had
Okay.
nothing to do with racism. Sammy Davis Jr. was Jewish.
Well, he became Jewish. He wasn't
Right.
born Jewish.
I don't think it had to do with his race.
Everyone likes bagels.
Everybody
Come
likes bagels. It doesn't have anything to do with being a Jew.
Now people like bagels. I don't know if they're necessarily
Oh.
as prevalent back in the 50s.
Yeah, that's true. Not many
Yeah.
people
In
knew what
New
bagels
York,
were
they
unless we're
probably
Jewish.
were, because New York is just overrun with Jews.
Yeah,
So
that's why they
everybody
call
got
it New York
bagels.
It's
City.
overrun with Jews. It's just like they're everywhere.
They were. They were.
They put out
everywhere.
Jew traps to get them out of their houses.
They were grabbing
Jewish
young.
infestation in the corners of my home.
They were grabbing young, impressionable black entertainers and turning them into Jews. It was a whole thing.
Oh, how
Richard
many-
Pryor was this close to being Jewish, just so
Was
you know.
he?
They almost had their
Cleavon
hooks-
Little as well.
Richard Pryor,
Nipsey Russell.
Nipsey Russell,
Nipsey Russell,
maybe.
they almost had him.
Name like Nipsey, you'd think he would be Jewish.
No, I think he was Episcopalian.
Was he?
I don't know.
But I do
I-
think there definitely was a time in the 70s, 80s, before grunge and whatever, where there was a definite, like if you were in a rock band, you had to dress a certain cool way. You couldn't go up there with your normal clothes. It was like, I'm going to wear whatever, like a flowery shirt or cool tight pants. It was definitely, that's why when I was a little boy, I thought I could never be a rock star. I was a really good guitarist when I was 10 years old, but I was like, I'm not cool enough. I don't look like that. I'm a fat,
So-
chubby guy who wears bad pants and
But when you
clothes.
were in a band, what did you wear when you were on stage? What was your
Street
kind of
clothes. Yeah, because it was punk. Punk had happened. And then it was just like, oh yeah, just wear your street clothes. It's silly to do all this like whatever, foo-for-rah.
But you
But-
wore you wore a
Hoo
t-shirt and
hurrah.
jeans.
Whatever I wore, yeah. That I was wearing at work that day. I'd run to the show from work and then play a show. I didn't change. I'd say, oh, I got to put on my leather pants. Because
Well,
nobody
no,
would
because
like,
it was punk rock.
or
But
whatever.
even within punk rock, there was obviously there was a certain amount of fashion.
Yeah, the
That's-
big, like bigger bands, yeah.
Yeah, that's like 90s, yeah, punk rock. But you know, like the Sex Pistols were arguably more fashion than music.
You're right, yeah. All those early punk bands were very into the fashion. It was like all about like, if you don't look right, we'll kick you out of the band. You could be the best
Yeah.
musician in the band. Like Glenn Matlock and the Sex Pistols. Well, he got kicked out because he admitted he liked ABBA one day. But he also got kicked out because he didn't look punk. He was just a
what
dude.
instrument did Glenn Matlock play on the Sex
He
Pistols?
played guitar and he played all the best. He wrote a lot of the great songs of the Sex Pistols. He was the best musician in the band.
Oh yeah,
I
the rest
thought he
were a
played
bunch
bass.
of clowns.
Sorry, he played bass. And then they got Sid Vicious, a talentless fuck who looked cool, who
Yeah,
looked
he
the
did
part.
look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was fashion. I mean, the Misfits, I think better, you know, I think there's more music there, but there's also a whole lot of fashion. I mean, you
Oh,
look
yeah.
at what the Misfits started from their whole thing and that whole
And
fashion
then you
thing.
move into Guar.
Yeah, that's a whole next. That's
Yeah.
like
Or
Kiss.
Kiss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kiss and Guar and these
Well, I
guys
think
that wear these
Guar
like,
is like worse than Kiss in terms
And
of
Slipknot.
costuming. Yeah.
Slipknot is another one. The Insane Clown Posse. I
Well, you
mean,
know,
wanna
they
hear a
say
story?
that Kiss is boomer juggalos.
it is. It's true. I would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
It's
But
like they
there's
were the
a-
original Insane Clown Posse.
This
was Kiss.
story still cracks me up that I knew this garage band in the 90s in Tucson. They were called the Fells. And, you know, garage rock was kind of just about like, yeah, you wear your t-shirts and your jeans or whatever. Nothing too flashy. You don't want to be like ostentatious. And one of the guys in the band, because they had a very retro aesthetic, like, yeah, we're retro. We don't like any new shit. And one of the guys in the band, who's a very competent bass player, wore a Ren and Stimpy t-shirt to a show. And he got so much shit for that. Like, that's not what we're about, and that's not our thing. And
So wait a second. Did they say to him, "You idiot"? Did they
Why
say that
was
to the guy?
why was a
yeah,
Ren
yeah,
and-
they said, you idiot.
why was a Ren and Stimpy T-shirt objectionable?
Because they were so like, these guys were kind of so into their garage aesthetic. It was kind of pathetic. They were like nerds. They were like garage nerds. It was like,
What-
no,
wait, a garage nerd, wouldn't that be somebody who just like changes tires?
a
I don't know
nerd?
why a garage nerd wouldn't watch Ren and Stimpy. Was that too mainstream at the time?
I guess, yes, it was. Apparently was. If he had a t-shirt that had My Favorite Martian on it, they would have been like, yeah, thumbs up. Or
March was
My Mother the
cooler?
Car.
Not, it wasn't retro enough, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Was it like, because there was definitely a retro aspect to the garage thing in the 90s, like the past 2 decades haven't happened. We're still the Sonics in the
Well,
60s.
speaking of ridiculous things, we have kind of missed one of our segments, which is when we ask Greg a pointed legal questions. So I think it's time that we make that happen.
I hope it's
So
about fashion.
we'll get back to that, but we should at least, you know,
Is it all right to wear white after Labor Day legally?
what? Anyway,
Only,
here we go.
only if you're racist.
He has an opinion, may not always be right.
Can you hear
He's a
anything?
real fake
Yes.
lawyer. He's old and he's white. Ask him a question, 'cause he's a good egg for bogus advice. Ask Greg. Ask Greg. Ask Greg.
Well, this is the part of our show, everybody, where we ask Greg questions of a legal nature, and you're certainly welcome to ask him questions as well if you have any handy who's there on YouTube. He will give you his fake lawyer opinion about what is right and what is wrong. So I will start things off, Greg. Dear Greg, my boyfriend hadn't paid his restitution in 6 months. He paid it all today. Will the judge drop the warrant, and should he?
Restitution, you say?
Yes.
That's such a boring legal question. I'm sorry.
It's too boring to give an opinion to.
I would say sure.
All right, I'll ask you a different question. Dear Greg, I'm on SSI disability. Can I be garnished by a collection agency about a credit card that I've been unable to pay on?
Of course you can.
Yeah. Is it
Just
okay
'cause-
though?
Just because you're gimpy doesn't mean like you get special treatment under the law.
Wow, these are real questions.
Yeah.
I try to have real questions for Greg so we can give real legal answers. But all right, finally, one more, Greg. I'll make this quick. If police raid my house for drugs and detain me, do they have to show me the warrant before they search if I demand it?
Yes, they do.
They do.
But if they find any drugs and they decide to use them, they have to do it with you, share them with you, hang out
Right.
and smoke the pot with you. And they can't just
Yeah.
take it for themselves.
I think that's Oregon specific.
Yeah.
Greg, I don't know that translates to Utah.
Yeah, the
They're
cops will
not
smoke
raiding
you out.
people for pot in Oregon, Greg.
They used to, though.
Okay. But let's say it's meth then. So you're saying that the cops, if they raid the house, that if they find meth, they have to share that with the meth.
They don't
they're-
read in Oregon. They don't read for meth any drug. We passed the law.
Well, if the point what Greg was making was if the cops are going to do the drug, they are required to share.
Oh,
Yeah.
If they just take it in, fine. But if they're going to smoke the weed or the crack or the meth, then they have to share with the owner of the house. No, that's ipso facto drug tacto.
Hocus pocus.
habeas
That's
corpus.
just common courtesy. That's what it
Well,
is.
that's just not
Oh.
being an asshole
It's
for
common
sure.
courtesy. You're
Okay.
gonna send this guy to jail. At least smoke him out on the way to the
All right.
jail.
So everybody out there, if you have legal questions for Greg, I don't know, Brenda, do you happen to have one handy for Greg?
So, dear Greg,
Mhm.
I lassoed my alligator to a parking meter while I bought my scratchy tickets and my cigarellos. Am I required by law to pay for the ticket that they stapled to my gator's head?
Well, there's actually a precedent to this. It was Mr. Ed versus the state of California, where Mr. Ed's trainer tied him up to a palm tree, and the same thing happened. And he unfortunately did have to pay for it because Mr. Ed's rich. So Mr. Ed had a lot of money.
Mr. Ed is rich, the horse?
He was the richest horse in Hollywood. Yeah, he made more money than you'll ever see. He had a TV show, Matt.
Where did he put his money?
What? In the horse bank.
No, come on, let's not sugarcoat it.
The horse
He
bank.
blew all of his money in dive bars in Tijuana. Getting done the nasty is the only place a horse can go.
Mr.
Well,
Ed
yeah,
went to
what's
donkey
sad-
shows. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm
These horse
saying.
shows, yeah. And the big thing was people always go because at the end when he came, it always say Wilbur.
Is that what he would say?
That was the big finish, the money shot.
Well, that's fantastic news.
But yeah, I mean, an alligator is just like an automobile, a vehicle. I mean, it's taking up space.
Wait, a crocodile is just like an automobile?
An alligator, I meant to say. Because
An
we're in Florida.
Have you ridden many alligators, Greg?
No, in the eyes of the law, as far as
Oh.
parking law, traffic law.
I thought maybe you had like a history of riding alligators.
You
If they
can
were around, I would.
ride them. There used to be some places in Florida about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours north of me, where kids could ride alligators. It was pretty much a common thing.
This is before
Yeah, I think
child
Greg would
protection
probably
law.
have somebody else drive the alligator for him because he doesn't have a license to drive. So he would probably be like
No,
a
that's why
passenger.
if there were
A
alligators,
passenger on the alligator is what he would be.
If there
He would
were
ride the
alligators-
alligator bus is what he would
if there were
ride.
alligators running around Portland, I would definitely hitch a ride on one, like walking to work every morning. I'd just be like, "There's an alligator. I'm gonna jump on him."
So the
Yeah.
alligator is heading to your place of work.
Yeah.
Greg?
Yeah.
What Maconhead?
Despite the apex nature of the alligator, there is definitely a Porky Pig, height and weight requirement to ride the alligator. None of us would qualify. The alligator would just fucking sit down and go, fuck you.
Yeah.
You got to be a smaller child. That's what I'm saying.
So this was
To
really
ride
a
an
legal
alligator.
thing.
To ride
They
an
let-
alligator.
They let children ride alligators.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
The alligators never turned around and took a bite.
They kept them well fed. Apparently, if you feed your alligators well, they tend not to turn on their owners.
That's good.
One
Yeah.
should take care of one's alligator if you don't want to turn a bite. All right, well, let's get back to our client. Thank you, Greg, once again for your stunning legal advice for the
acumen
listeners to the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. So back to our client, which was Rock and Roll Coochie. Who? I don't know who the hell came up with that title. Anyway.
You did.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But you guys wanted that one. That was like my throwaway one, which just sounded kind of funny.
Well, that's why we chose it.
Yeah.
Coochie who?
Coochie
I like
who?
it. It rolls off the tongue.
So that makes me think about the Plasmatics, actually.
Punk
You remember
rock. Oh.
Right? So the Plasmatics were a punk band back in the '80s, everybody, and the lead singer was a woman who would wear electrical tape over her nipples.
Wendy O. Williams.
And had a mohawk.
Yeah, didn't she later wind up having like a talk show that's popular now?
I think she's dead.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah, she died.
There's some Wendy Williams that has a talk show, right?
No, that's an African American woman, and yeah, it's a totally different deal.
So she doesn't run her show with electrical tape over her nipples, then?
No, that would be cool, but no.
That would
That'd be
actually
very
be a
special
talk show that
episode.
I would probably watch. I would think.
Wow, she died in 1998. I thought it was much more recent than that. She's been dead for a while.
Yeah.
Well, she lived kind of a rough existence, if from what I remember correctly. She was kind of like the female Sid Vicious to an extent, but she survived much longer, obviously.
I don't know if she was a drug addict though. I think she died of she was like rock climbing or something. She was like very athletic and kind of like an Amazon woman. I don't think she was a drug addict. I think she was pretty clean.
Oh.
She first attempted suicide. She then attempted suicide, and then she died of a self-inflicted gun wound.
Okay.
So that's like rock climbing.
It's very much like rock climbing.
Very much.
It's like rock and roll climbing that, if you reach the pinnacle, you got to shoot yourself in the head.
Okay, that was off the top of my head. I don't know how she died, but I knew it wasn't drug overdose like most rock stars. Anytime
it says
rock star,
Williams died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound on April 6, 1998, when she was 48. Svensson, her partner for more than 20 years, returned home in the area where they had been living. He found a package she left for him that contained some noodles that he liked, a packet of seeds for growing garden greens, and some Oriental massage balm.
So she was very thoughtful.
Yeah, she gave him some fucking ramen, some noodles. Yeah,
For the man she left behind.
so we could move on.
She left him that and a pool of blood to clean up. So it was a combination of things, it seems like.
Yeah, that was a whole hot mess.
Yeah.
Brains splattered all over the place.
Yeah,
But
that can never
it
be
wasn't
fun.
rock climbing, Greg. She killed herself.
A lot of those
unfortunately.
rock stars go for not just the drug overdoses, Greg, but they go for like the blood splatterings as well of their heads in different places, which, is always a strange thing for me to hear about. And it's always
Puppy
sad.
Love had him killed. Just saying.
Yeah,
Well, I
please
wasn't
don't
necessarily thinking of specifically of Kurt Cobain, but there's a few others.
He's the
out
most
there.
recent famous one that blew his brains out.
Didn't Chris Cornell shoot himself?
No, he hung himself.
He hung himself. Oh, okay.
Was
So-
that sex thing? A sex
what about
thing? Or
what about Chester Bennington from Linkin Park? Was he hanging as well?
Linkin Park, I have no idea.
And I don't care.
Well,
I don't really care.
The
either.
guy had a really
He
good
was-
voice, and it was an
Yeah, he
interesting
was
band.
killed. He was killed by Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit. He just went in and just murdered him because he did it for the Nookie. I don't know.
Durst. So it was actually Fred Durst who took out Chester Bennington,
Yes, because
but it was for the Nookie
they
specifically.
were battling for the worst band of all time, and Fred was not going to let Linkin Park
I
Take it
gotta
away
give
from him.
Linkin Park a lot more credit than Limp Bizkit in terms for music purposes. They had
Mhm.
a lot of better songs than Durst ever did. So I give them much more credit for that.
But he had a lot more fashion, in my opinion.
Well, the interesting thing about Fred Durst band is I always got a kick out of his guitarist who wore those black contact lenses.
Uh-huh.
So where it was always like this interesting horror creature who was on stage with him because you couldn't see obviously his pupils, like his eyes were like one big pupil. So I
Yeah,
think
but
that's
then
like an interesting fashion statement right there.
That is.
they were trying to keep in the line with Slipknot, the horror bands. That look like
Not really. It was only the guitarist who did that, and it was only the contact lenses that he was wearing.
Yeah, I'm
Whereas
saying he was
Slipknot
trying to
is
look
wearing
scary.
like those scary masks that nearly every member of the band wore.
Yeah.
Which is I think, a lot
Ridiculous.
different. Is it ridiculous?
Yes,
Why? Why is it ridiculous that they would decide to wear costumes while they were performing?
because that's all they had. They sucked, and so they were like,
But-
"Oh."
but-
No, Slipknot was a good band.
And they tricked all these kids into liking them because it was like, "Ooh, they look cool and scary."
Guar was better than Slipknot.
I disagree.
Well, you also think that Linkin Park is better than Limp Bizkit, so.
Yeah, and I think many people would agree with that too.
Oh yeah, is that
Well,
right?
are you
You
like
speak for
are you a
everybody?
big Fred Durst fan, Brendan? I
No,
didn't
I think-
realize
I
I was
think that-
tromping on your fandom.
I think they all suck.
Oh, okay.
I gotta say, Guar.
It was
has
just
great-
the condescending nature of your. Oh well, everybody would agree that it was just that.
I don't know that I
music's-
said everybody would agree. I said many people would agree.
Okay. Well, let's quibble about the words.
Many
you
people
used.
with shitty musical
Yes,
taste would
let's
agree.
quibble.
Many people with shitty musical taste would agree. I definitely give that to Matt. I concur.
Yeah. Yes. A lot of people with shitty musical taste would have an argument about who was shittier, Linkin Park or Limp Bizkit. And I wouldn't.
Okay, well,
I
I've
wouldn't-
already learned from being on the show with you guys for nearly 2 years now that I know how you feel about my musical tastes, and I'll just have to
What
say
the-
that the feeling's mutual. So it's
Oh
all
yeah,
okay.
you've never really held back about your opinions about our musical taste. So I don't know why we should do the same.
I
Matt.
like most bands, not necessarily.
Matt, can we have a
all.
lightning round?
A lightning round of what?
Right Said Fred or Lou Bega? Who wins?
Lou Vega.
Lou Bega wins that one, yeah,
Yeah.
because
It's
he's too
hard
sexy
for
for his
me.
mambo, is what he is. So,
Well, yeah, they were both one-hit wonders that nobody
but I
knows.
thought
any-
this was a lightning round.
I
Well,
know,
that's a
but
lightning round.
There was just
Well,
one hit of lightning. There wasn't any more lightning.
Yeah. A lightning
come
anomaly.
on. Okay, so Matt, you have to come up with one.
What for Greg?
Well, for all of us, like whatever, this band or that band.
This
it
band
can't
or
be-
that band?
It can't be Linkin Park or Limp Bizkit because we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
All right. Let me think.
And it can't
Tears
be
for
Hoobastank.
Fears or Flock of Seagulls?
Flock of Seagulls.
Flock of Seagulls.
I see. I'd go the other way. I would say Tears
Full
for
on.
Fears.
That's because you're fucking crazy, obviously. Let me think of one.
All right, go ahead. Lightning
Uh,
round. This is very slow lightning we have here.
I know.
Slow
Come on.
people.
This
What
was,
about wait, I have one for Matt because you won't even know. Hoobastank or Godsmack?
I think I prefer Hoobastank over Godsmack.
I think I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I've
those
tried to like
bands.
Godsmack, and I'm just not getting into their stuff. It's just incredibly plotting and boring to me. Whereas at least Hoobastank had like that one song, "The Reason," which wasn't a bad pop song.
Dead on Arrival or Milli Vanilli?
I'm gonna give it to Dead on Arrival because at least they did their own music.
Okay, fair enough. Greg?
Juice Newton or Nicolette Larson?
Well, Juice Newton, I think she had more hits and her name was more interesting.
I just don't know the other one, so I'm going with Juice Newton.
I actually can't remember. Nicolette Larson had a one-hit wonder. What was she? Fuck.
I don't know. It doesn't even ring a.
She had a
any
big
sort
hit
of
in the 70s.
bell.
We'll just Firefall or Starland Vocal Band.
Oh,
Fire.
now I'm out. I don't know.
Oh, Firefall.
No
You
Welcome
are
opinion.
to-
the woman
Welcome
that
back
I
to the
always
lightning
dreamed
round
of.
of crap bands from the 70s.
Leo Sayer. Leo Sayer, or I can't even think of someone that ridiculous.
Air Supply.
Leo
Yeah.
Sayer definitely beats out Air Supply.
I would go with
Everyone
Leo
beats
Sayer
Air Supply.
over Air Supply.
Okay, let's go crazy here though. Hoobastank versus Air Supply.
Air Supply.
Well, gosh,
I don't know.
I would say that I would prefer to listen to Hoobastank over Air Supply, but Air Supply had more hits than Hoobastank, so there's that. So,
Well, we're talking personal preferences, I think.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, all right, well then.
We're not Casey Kasem.
It's got a good beat.
All right, Greg, Deep Blue Something or the Fabulous Thunderbirds?
Deep Blue something? I don't know who they are.
They were a
I
wonderful
go with
band.
Deep Blue Something.
They did the song Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not, I think of all the shitty songs in the past 25 years, that's not the worst.
No,
I don't know what the worst would be, but that was just one that I happened to pick.
that's a
There's a
good
lot
one.
of bad songs in the past 25 years because I'm an old man and I don't like
Yes.
music now.
Apparently. Okay, so we drove our client away.
I think we need to work on that one. I think that could be fun, but we can't do it off the top of our heads. But maybe we should do a lightning round of
Wait, guys, I have a
something.
really challenging
Movies, shitty movie versus shitty movie. Which one do you pick? Or actors or musicians or I don't know. I think it'd be fun.
one. Wait, I got a really challenging one. Public Enemy, NWA.
Oh, Public
NWA.
Enemy. Public Enemy is so much better than NWA.
There's a lot of people love NWA though. That's why I asked.
I mean, I love NWA, but Public Enemy actually was saying something about something as opposed to just, fuck it, suck it, shit in a bucket. I'm from South Central, motherfucker.
That was their biggest song, wasn't it? Fuck it, suck it, shit in a bucket.
Pretty much. I mean, I love NWA, don't get me wrong, but you can't even compare NWA to Public Enemy in terms of lyrics and what they're saying in the message.
Okay, here's one that's divisive. Tupac or Notorious B.I.G.?
Oh, B.I.G., 100% East Coast.
I don't know either.
You don't know either, Greg. All
Yeah,
right, how about
but
this one,
one
Greg?
song.
Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg?
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Do
Greg, do you know
either
those
of you
people?
two actually have an opinion on these?
I don't
I've-
really know any of this shit.
Do you know that there is an artist named Snoop Dogg or Snoop Lion?
Exactly. And I've never heard one Tupac song in my life. I know Tupac Shakur was a huge figure in rap. I know his history.
But Notorious B.I.G., come on.
I don't know one song by him either. I do know Public Enemy. That's one of the few rap bands I do enjoy.
Well,
All right.
that's because we're going back.
KRS-One or Curtis Blow?
Ooh, that's hard. I'm gonna go with Curtis Blow. Just 'cause he's-
KRS-One all day.
I think KRS-One is cool, but Curtis Blow is more original. Like he's more old school.
Well, they were both old school.
KRS-One is definitely not as old school as Curtis Blow.
They were contemporaries.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, KRS-One may have come out a couple of years after Curtis Blow, but not that much more.
It just
Wasn't
felt
Curtis
like,
Blow like one of the earliest rap guys? Like,
yeah, Curtis Blow goes way back. I just don't think a KRS-One is going that far back, but I could be wrong.
yeah, like Run DMC era, just
Yeah.
coming out.
Curtis Blow,
Curtis
Run
Blow was
DMC,
around.
Grandmaster Flash.
Yeah.
Well, that's even before that shit.
Well, yeah, that's like way back.
And
That was
Greg.
sui generous.
Why Matt, are you looking at something like you're
No.
really just rolling with the hits on rap music right now?
I am not completely unaware of different genres of music. So I can do
Like
these
trip
things.
hop. Apparently, Matt's an expert on trip hop.
Trip
now.
hop. What's the best trip hop band? I want to do a deep dive after the show on that.
I think Thievery Corporation might be one to look into, but they're more of like a dubstep, though, I guess, than trip hop.
I can't stand dubstep.
Okay.
Dubstep. I don't even know what that is.
It's too repetitive.
It's when you have George Bush around and he takes small steps to going places.
Oh, that's
Ouch.
heavy dad joke right there.
You just gave me a migraine.
Well, that and the fact that we've gone 15 minutes over. So I want to thank very much Ryan Cassata for coming on our show today. strangely enough, he was totally willing and interested in talking to us. As you know, and you should all check out his stuff. It's actually got some pretty good songs. Go to ryancassata.com. If you want to see Greg Pettix anywhere, just find your local dumpster. He might be looking around trying to find like a burger or two. And
No, I
Brendan,
don't want competition. Don't tell them
And
where.
you'll see me at the store because I do a lot of shopping. So, check
Brendan
me
you
out.
can find in Florida. He's probably one of the few in the store wearing a mask.
Nope.
Very possible. No, you're not wearing masks
No,
these days.
no, hell no.
Not in Florida.
I'm not wearing a mask.
He's the few in the store who doesn't have an alligator tied up to the.
I don't have an alligator, and I'm not wearing my house slippers.
He's one of the few not masturbating in front of the 7-Eleven down there in Florida.
I'm not that guy or girl either. Yes.
So that's how you can find Brendan as well. But we are on various different social medias. If you want to check us out, our website is www.qsblaw.org. We do have merchandise if you want to buy shirts or glasses, or if Brendan has come up with the Disco Jihad shirt yet or not. It may be there one of these days. Just so everybody knows, in June, we'll be having our 2-year anniversary. We'll be doing another Quibbly Award show. So keep an eye out for that. Is there any other announcements anybody wants to make? We don't have any guests, I think, for a couple of weeks. We have an author coming on in February. And then we have a repeat guest at the end of February, which would be actually the beginning of March. John Vorhaus, who was on our show last year. And he's promoting a new book. So keep an eye out for that. Anything else? Anything you guys want to announce? Yay, nay?
Nay.
Greg is like, I want to announce that I'm nibbling on my fingertip. That's what I want to tell everyone.
No,
All right. All right. Well, this has been, once again, the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and